Crossovers and SUVs are all the rage these days. And here we have first spy shots of what could be the upcoming 2021 Ford Baby Bronco. At least that's the name that's rumored. It can also be called the Adventurer or Bronco Scout. Let's dive deep in what it could be, take a look at the spy images and see everything that we could tell from the images and also the information we have from Ford on the 2020 Ford Escape, because the two will be sharing a platform. At least that's the information that we have currently suggests. So what is this going to be? So first of all, we don't know what the official name will be. That's why we're using several names: Adventurer, Scout, Bronco Scout, or Baby Bronco. That's kind of the common name that everybody is currently using for it. It's going to be a compact crossover, and it's targeted at other compact crossovers that are off-road worthy, similar to the Jeep Renegade. And I'll show you how it compares to competition at the end of this video. So, what do we know so far? Well, when Nathan went to the unveiling of the 2020 all-new Ford Escape, he talked to the engineers and some of the product planners, and they did say that the C2 architecture is flexible, and the 2020 Ford Escape is really meant for the street. It's a sleek, more higher performance little crossover, so it's not really meant for off-road worthiness. But Ford representatives did say that the flexible architecture could allow them to build an off-road worthy crossover based on the same architecture, potentially, and this is not what they said, but that's what we're thinking, potentially using the same drivetrains, same technologies, just different body style and different capability. But if we look at the images you see here, this prototype that was captured in Michigan, testing off-road, appears to have a similar wheelbase or a similar size as the upcoming 2020 Escape, but the body is completely different. And it looks like it's on its way to become a production car. So it doesn't look like a cobbled together test mule that uses different parts from different vehicles. It looks like it's its own thing. The doors are more upright. The doors appear taller. The whole shape of this prototype appears to be kind of reminiscent of the prototype that the Land Rover Defender was using. Kind of boxy shape, tall roof, and kind of a short overall proportions. And if you can see in this photographs, the bumpers are very squared off. Those are probably not production meant bumpers. And we cannot see underneath of this prototype very well, but likely it will be using independent suspension all the way around, very similar to what the Ford Escape is using, as well as the all-wheel drive system. So what does this mean for the upcoming Ford Adventurer or the Baby Bronco? So we don't have any official specs obviously yet, but like I said, we could make some educated guesses. The 2020 all-new Ford Escape basically will start out with a 1.5 liter EcoBoost turbocharged 3-cylinder engine, and it's likely to be the base engine because, the power rating is 180 horsepower and 177 pound-feet of torque. All these ratings you see here reported by Ford are based on 93 octane, so high octane fuels for maximum power on these little turbocharged engines. For the Escape, it will also have a 2-liter EcoBoost turbocharged engine, which is a 4-cylinder, and it probably will be optional on higher trim levels, 250 horsepower and 275 pound-feet of torque. Again, on 93 octane. And there's also going to be a 2.5-liter Atkinson cycle hybrid. And this is an interesting hybrid system because, yes, it's using a small battery, about 1.1 kilowatt hour approximately, but the total power, electric and gasoline combined, is 198 and about 550 miles of range for that Escape that will come out in the fall of this year. And interestingly, all the engines I mentioned for the Ford Escape will have an all-wheel drive system optional, and it will have a option to disconnect the rear wheels, so it's front wheel biased all-wheel drive system, so the front wheels are mainly driving the car. If all-wheel drive capability is needed, there's a drive shaft that connects the front to the rear, and it's also available on the hybrid because most other manufacturers are using electric motor in the rear with no physical connection between the rear and the front. but not the hybrid 2020 Escape. It's actually using a drive shaft in addition to the electrified system, electric and gas combined. So if the Bronco or the baby Bronco Ford Adventure, comes to fruition, it may have this very similar all-wheel drive system. Of course, it will have similar level of technology, and Ford is turning up the dial on available technology across all of their crossovers and SUVs and trucks. Copilot 360, it's Ford's name for driver assistance technologies, and this includes adaptive cruise control, lane centering, lane departure warning, and some other optional technologies like Park Assist 2.0, which not only helps you steer to parallel park or perpendicular park, but also takes care of the brake and gas. So those autonomous technologies are now increasing. Their capability is now increasing across the board. Of course, selectable driving modes. In this case, it's an off-road ready, off-road focused little crossover. So there'll be probably several off-road modes for sand, snow, rocks, etc. Of course, heads-up display is also going to be available on the Escape. This would be a really cool feature if it appeared on the little baby Bronco as well. And we put this question down here. Is there going to be a Raptorized version of the Adventure? Well, I think it's kind of a stretch because there's only so much you can do with independent suspension. And because Ford is also working on what's so-called the mid-size Bronco or the full-size Bronco, depending on how you look at it, based on the Ford Ranger. Frame-based, off-road ready, sort of very focused SUV. In addition to this, and we've shown you prototypes of that vehicle as well, which kind of looked like a modified Ranger. And that, according to Ford, may come sooner than actually this little baby Bronco. We don't know exactly when they're going to debut. They could debut at the same time, but we're targeting this one as a 2021, and so is the bigger Bronco that's going to compete against cars like the Jeep Wrangler. So that one, the bigger Bronco, may have a more extreme Raptorized version, with a more suspension lift, bigger all-terrain tires, etc., crawl control, and all the rest. So now let's take a look how it compares against the Jeep Renegade, which we think is the main competitor for the new baby Bronco or the Adventure. The Jeep Renegade obviously has been on sale for quite some time, and here's how it compares on what we think would be the base engine configuration. So the Adventure may have a 1.5-liter turbo, 3-cylinder, and the base Jeep Renegade currently has a 2.4-liter naturally aspirated 4-cylinder engine. But the horsepower levels, what we have here, what we know from the Escape, are the same. Very similar torque levels. Of course, the turbocharged engine will have more torque down low. 8-speed automatic based on the Escape once again, and 9-speed available here in the Jeep. Starting price on the Renegade Sport would be $22,275. And for the Trailhawk version, what we think, this is the most off-road worthy Renegade. We're not sure what the most off-road worthy Adventure will be called, but that's $27,795. And so we don't know how the pricing will shake out exactly, but it would have to be comparable. By the way, the Ford Escape will start at $25,980. That's including destination, arriving this fall. And the Escape Hybrid is actually arriving, should be arriving about the same time. And there's also a plug-in hybrid Escape that's going to arrive later in the spring of 2020. And that will have more battery capacity and about 30 miles of electric-only driving range. We don't know if that plug-in hybrid or the hybrid system will be available, obviously, in the baby Bronco, but that information is there. And of course, we think that it will start in the low $20,000 range because it has to compete against the Renegade. So $21,000, $22,000 seems reasonable for a starting price there. So let us know in the comments below what you think about this prototype. This is our first time seeing it in these spy images. I'm excited that it's not the same shape as an Escape, just a little higher. It actually looks like its own body. I like that because it differentiates itself from other vehicles. It's not like a cookie cutter approach where it's like a Russian nesting doll and it's getting different sizes of the same vehicle. So I like the uniqueness of this prototype. I hope it translates into production, and I hope we will see it within the next 2 years. And go back to tflcar.com for news, views, and real-world car reviews.